So I waited a week before I started posting any kind of spoilers for Deadpool and Wolverine. I gave everybody a heads up. I said, look, man, y'all got a week to see this shit, and I'm gonna start posting spoilers. Had to give myself 2 weeks to fully process this movie, man. And I like this is a movie where there is a lot of shit going on, man. As expected, this was one of the most anticipated films of the year. I'll get to the rating. I'll get to where this sits as far as films of 2024. Excuse me, but it's not even that it's a mixed bag. It's just a bag full of shit. It's a lot of things in this movie, man, that we gotta unpack. It's lots to talk about, but I don't want to keep y'all here for an hour and a half. I'm gonna try to find it. I don't even want to use all my notes, to be honest, because I feel like if I use all my notes, we're gonna be stuck here for a long time. We gonna want to be in a whole different timeline at some point. The timeline integrity that's mentioned in the film is going to be fucked with if we use all these notes for this film, for this review. But to start off with with the humble beginnings, man, let me just say this about the character of Deadpool. I didn't really know much about the character. I knew little to nothing at all about the character of Deadpool, man. I probably had seen him in like some video games or something like that, but I didn't really, I never really paid the character any mind. I didn't understand the merc with the mouth and why he was such a popular and controversial character in the in the Marvel universe. I didn't understand. So I feel like by the time we got him on screen, when Ryan Reynolds played him back in X-Men Origins Wolverine, I actually really liked that movie, by the way. But I felt like I was like, oh, this is a cool character. But then he dies, and then they bring him back at the end, and he's basically got every power from all these other mutants that Sabretooth and Stryker were snatching up. And I didn't understand the uproar about it. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, they fucked up Deadpool, man! They covered up his mouth and they gave him blades and instead of swords, and he shoots. He's got Cyclops' optic blast and he can teleport like Nightcrawler." I did not understand why everybody was so upset about it. I was like, well, I enjoyed the movie. The movie, it's definitely got a lot of problems. It's definitely got a lot of questionable CG and a lot of questionable moments and a lot of questions in general that don't really get answered. But I enjoyed X-Men Origins, man. I didn't get it, man. And I thought Ryan Reynolds was great casting for Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool. And it wasn't until I did some research on the character I said, oh, this is why everybody was so pissed off. Not even just, I think pissed off is an understatement. People were just in shambles, man. People were just irate about the fact that they messed up such an iconic character. And I was like, oh, I get it. Like, he's the merc with the mouth for real. And you sewed his mouth shut. And, there's even a line in the movie where he's like, Stryker finally figured out a way to shut you up. That wasn't the best thing to do for the character, upon me doing further research. Then there was that Deadpool, that animated test footage that leaked. Nobody knows who leaked it. Ryan Reynolds makes jokes about who leaked it all the time and if it was him or if it wasn't him type of thing. But then I saw that leaked test footage and I was like, wow, they could really make a good, maybe R-rated Deadpool movie out of this. And lo and behold, we got an R-rated Deadpool movie. I remember seeing the trailer and I've seen R-rated comic book movies before, man. I think Kick-Ass had already been out at the time. Of obviously The Crow is a good R-rated one. I think Watchmen had already been out at the time. So we had R-rated superhero movies or anti-hero, whatever you want to consider them to be. And I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, regardless of how many R-rated superhero films I've seen, this is different, man. I said, oh, this is different. Fox is going a little bit bonkers with the character and with the writing, and he's breaking the fourth wall. I was like, wow, that's something that I like. Even though I did research on him, I did not know that Deadpool had broke the fourth wall as much as he did. Like, he is literally legit talking to the audience throughout the course of the entire fucking movie, man, just breaking all types of barriers. And then I remember I saw the movie. Deadpool was great in the movie. I didn't really like Francis the villain. I thought he was a weak ass villain. Gina Carano was pretty cool. Colossus, even though I'm a practical over CG guy, I think Colossus looked very comic book accurate and he looks pretty cool in action. But I was like, yo, Deadpool is here to stay, man. Then I remember seeing Deadpool 2. I was like, oh, this is how you do a sequel. I low key might like Deadpool 2 better than the first one. And then they had Juggernaut again. He looks pretty cool, but I'm a practical over CG guy, but I can appreciate the fact that he was as huge as he was. Hated the kid Julian, Josh Brolin as Cable, Zazie Beetz as Domino. I thought that they gave Deadpool some very, very solid co-stars and just sidekicks in the movie overall. And then you know the whole thing with Bishop, not Bishop, Jesus Christ, with Cable coming to you know, kill that kid. It was very Terminator 2, and I think they even make a joke about it in there. But this was the thing as far as a Deadpool 3 movie goes. You know, when Disney and Fox did that merger, I was like, I remember doing an episode where I was like, it's a couple properties that are going to be in trouble. I thought the Alien franchise was in trouble. I thought the Predator franchise was in trouble. I thought the Die Hard series was in more trouble than it already was in. And come to find out, you know, Fox and Disney, I feel like they came to a good agreement where we got movies like Prey, where we're getting something like, you know, Alien, Romulus later this month. But I was really worried about Deadpool, man. I was like, I don't know how they're going to do this, man. You can't have a PG-13 Deadpool movie. It's just not going to work. And I kind of thought that Disney and Fox were going to, or 20th Century Studios, whatever, were going to scrap the whole idea. So I was a little concerned. You know, there was news, there was rumors, but then you had that fucking announcement from Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman, where Ryan Reynolds is just sitting in the living room, and this shit broke the internet, where he's just like, hey Hugh, you want to come back for a third Deadpool movie? And Hugh Jackman was just casually walking up the steps. He's like, yeah, sure, Ryan. And then after that, like, he just, you know, Ryan Reynolds just kind of looks at the screen and just like smirks a little bit. That was some of the most insane news that I had seen, man. And Wolverine, obviously Wolverine being a fan favorite, being basically the highlight of every X-Men movie he was in. Look, man, as far as the solo Wolverine movies, like I said, I enjoyed X-Men Origins. I didn't really care for the Wolverine. I gotta go back and watch it, but I remember not really being too wowed by it. Logan, arguably one of the greatest comic book movies of all time, and yeah, I definitely shed tears with that. So to get Logan and Deadpool teaming up in a movie, I said, oh my god, this is a dream come true. They gotta put him in the suit, right? And then we started seeing set photos and test footage, and not test footage, but B-roll footage of Hugh Jackman in the fucking iconic blue and yellow suit alongside Deadpool. And I said, this is the shit that dreams are made of. And then I remember I complained a little bit. I complained when I was on the hype train, but I complained when the trailer dropped, because it was a teaser, and I was like, come on, man, this is basically The Dark Knight. Why I went to see The Dark Knight. I've seen Batman before. No diss to Batsy, but I'm coming to see the Joker. You know, it's like when you go to your certain superhero movies, a lot of those you go to see the villains. You know, I feel like at this point, not to talk about a superhero movie for a second, but to talk about a horror series. You know, people go to a Friday the 13th movie at this point, you know, 12 entries into the franchise. We go to see Jason fuck people up. You know, we go to see cool kills. We're not going to see, you know, method acting from these camp counselors or these horny teenagers, man. Nah. And it's no diss to Deadpool, but y'all know why I'm here. So yeah, I complained a lot. But then when they dropped that second trailer, I said, okay, I'm all in. And I apologized in my little TikTok green screen video. I said, yep. I said, my apology needs to be as loud as the disrespect was. My apologies, 20th Century Studios and Disney. But, you know, I still was on the hype train, man. But to actually see this movie, people, to simplify this and put this into terms that we all can understand, this shit is fucking lit. This movie, people, let's skip all the pleasantries right now, man. This movie is the best film of 2024. This movie is a 10 out of 10. Yes, it's got a few problems here and there, man, but I didn't care. I got everything that I was anticipating and more. Yeah, there were some things that maybe I was like, oh, if they do this, that'd be crazy. Yeah, there were some things in there I didn't get. But as far as the shit that they gave me, two things in particular, one thing for certain, oh yeah, I don't have too many complaints about this movie, man. This is why I said I don't even want to do like a full-blown review. There's no way I can break down scene for scene, beat for beat, every little major bit of dialogue and every warm-hearted moment. I can't do that this time around, people, because it's so much. If you have not seen this movie, man, you have to strap in. Like, this is one that y'all can definitely expect commentary for, and I'd rather it be an Intox commentary. I'm trying to reel a couple friends into doing this commentary with me when it starts streaming, but goddamn, man, this movie, this is top 5 MCU films for me, man. What a fucking way to bring Deadpool into the MCU. And what a swan song, another swan song for Hugh Jackman, should this be his last film? I don't think it's going to be his last movie. Let's keep it real. He had way too much fun working with Ryan Reynolds again, and there was somebody else that looked like they had fun working with Ryan Reynolds again. And I'm gonna get to it in a second, people, because I got one whole list, one sheet of paper, with cameos written down on it. There's a lot of cameos in this movie, man. And again, nothing against Deadpool. This is a joint film, but had we not have had a solo Deadpool movie in the first place, we wouldn't have had this. But there were moments where I don't give a damn what Deadpool's doing. I'm so fascinated by the other characters they got appearing on screen in this movie. People, first of all, this is one of the craziest opening sequences ever, where Deadpool is fucking digging up Logan's body. I think they took notes from whatever fan film or fan short was out there where Deadpool goes to where Logan's buried at from the last Logan film, and he like injects that serum into the ground. But we literally have Deadpool digging up Logan's body, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I can fix this. It's gonna be all good." And he digs up a fucking adamantium skeleton, and then the TVA people show up I think it's from the Loki series. Now, I've never seen the Loki series. I've only watched that one episode where Jonathan Majors was introduced as Kang, and that was a great fucking monologue sequence for him. It sucks what they did with Jonathan Majors, but we're not even going to talk about that, man. Marvel's had a crazy week, crazy couple of weeks as far as reveals and things like that. But this man, Deadpool dancing to NSYNC's "Bye Bye Bye," he does the full choreography for the fucking "Bye Bye Bye" video, man, and he's killing TVA members with Logan's adamantium, like parts of his ribs, from his adamantium rib cage, and then he straps the claws to his own self and is still killing TVA members. Man, listen, it is a beautiful, bloody introduction, man, and here's the thing. Here's where we get our plot. First of all, that's a dope opening. But here's where we get our plot, man. So Wade is basically living his normal life and living his best life. He's got a whole fucking toupee now. But TVA comes knocking at the door, knocking at his apartment door when he's having his birthday party. But all the regulars are there. Blind Owl is there. I think the girl's name is Yuriko. Negasonic Teenage Warhead's there. Peter's there. Is the girl's name Vanessa? Colossus is there, and Louis Tan. I thought his character died in the last Deadpool movie. I can't remember, but Louis Tan, what's his name? Shatterstar, I believe his name was. He's in there. TVA comes a knocking, man. They snatch his ass up like, yo, you got business to tend to. And then you got the mustache twirling villain who doesn't have a mustache at all. What is this motherfucker's name, man? His name's Mr. Paradox, played by Matthew McFadden, and he basically tells Deadpool, yo, your world is dying. Because Wolverine is gone. So we will give you a chance. If you do what we ask you to do, we'll give you a chance to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the greatest universe of all time. And, the catch is, you're not going to be able to save your universe. You're going to have to let go and let everyone that you love pretty much die and fade away. But you can join this amazing universe. You could be an Avenger if you want to. And Deadpool was like, I don't know how I'm going to turn down this opportunity, man. Like they've even got a screen up with all the Avengers clips. And there's this little clip of Thor holding Deadpool that they added in the film. And everybody's speculating as to why Thor's crying, why he's holding Deadpool. I don't know. There's a lot of rumors. I'm not really going to buy into it. But basically, Deadpool is on some shit where it's like, I can't let go of everybody that I love. This is my family. These are the people close to me. These are the people that have been holding me down for the last 2 films. So let me fix the problem. Let me do this little, TVA timeline Back to the Future thing. And let me go back and get Wolverine and bring him back so I can save everybody. Problem solved, right? No, wrong. Because there's a lot of shit that transpires once he goes looking for for Wolverine. So let me talk about these Wolverine cameos for a second, man, because we get a lot of Wolverines, man, when Deadpool is just traveling through timelines and shit like that. And we do get that Power of Love song playing during the montage, from Back to the Future. And I think that was like a really funny song to play. It was a nice touch. But these cameos from the different Wolverines, you get the short Wolverine. That was unexpected because he hops off a bar stool and he's like, who's asking for Logan? And, he's like 2 feet tall. And Deadpool is just talking shit to him. He's like, well, who let you out of the cage, little one? Or whatever he says to him, man. I'm telling y'all, this shit is insane. You got Weapon Omega. that Deadpool encounters in one timeline while he's time traveling looking for the proper Wolverine. You got Weapon Omega, who looks just like straight from the 80s. He's got this crazy hair, he's got a crazy costume. I want to see Weapon Omega in a film, man, because he looks terrifying. And the way that he starts fucking Deadpool up, it just seems like he doesn't have a conscience at all. He just wants to fuck him up. You get Patch, Patch at the poker table, the eye patch Wolverine. And everybody thought that was going to be Daniel Radcliffe or somebody like that, but it was Hugh Jackman, and it was cool to see him as, a tuxedoed up Wolverine playing poker and things like that. He stabs Deadpool in the head because he's not trying to hear shit he's saying. You get Old Man Logan, and I thought it was a Clint Eastwood reference at first. Like, I thought it was like some Gran Torino shit because he slowly like lifts his head up, and he's got like a big cowboy hat on. And he shoots Deadpool off of his porch, off of his property, man. It definitely was a Gran Torino, get off my lawn, Clint Eastwood type of moment. But you get Old Man Logan. You get Crucified Logan from the comics, man, where there's just a bunch of bloody skulls just completely consuming the ground. And Logan's just crucified on this X. Like, it's kind of like glowing yellow, so it's almost poetic in a weird type of way. You get Crucified Logan. You get the classic Logan that fought the Hulk with the brown and tan spandex on. And yes, we do get an Incredible Hulk cameo. It was funny as hell. It's very short-lived, but when Logan, when his claws deploy, you see the Hulk's reflection in those claws, man. And then Deadpool just kind of slowly turns around and starts trying to explain himself all fast, and the Hulk just slams him into a tree. We get the fucking Cavalrine. You get Henry Cavill as a variant of Wolverine, and I'm telling y'all, when I saw this version of Logan, when Deadpool was doing the montage, I was probably the most excited because the moment you see his hand revving up that motorcycle, they do like a shot where they zoom upward a little bit, or they zoom over to his bicep, and I'm like, that guy's huge, man. Hugh Jackman is indeed ripped and in really good shape for his age. But I said, this guy, I don't know if they put a suit, like a Juggernaut practical suit on whatever version of this Wolverine is going to be. But I said, I don't think that's Hugh Jackman, just based off the bicep alone. I'm like, this guy is buff as fuck. Lo and behold, he turns around, and I had to do a double take. I'm like, is that Henry Cavill? And Deadpool makes a joke at Henry Cavill's Wolverine, and he's like, oh, he's like, the Cavalrine, the legends are true. And he's like, man, this just feels right, and we'll treat you so much better than those shit fucks down the street. Obviously, they're throwing shade at DC, which is so ballsy, man. But to see Henry Cavill as a variant of Logan was just absolutely fucking amazing. And then, finally they do get to the actual Logan that we have in the movie. And let me just say something. We're going to get to the cameos in a second and some of the other shit that happens in the movie that I feel like is important to talk about. But this version of Wolverine, this might be the best acting. And I'm not just blowing smoke here, man, but this might just be the best performance that Hugh Jackman has done as the character of Wolverine, man, because he just really gets to show some intensity. He gets to show more emotion. Well, obviously, let me reframe real quick. Logan is the best performance as the character, but this is probably second best because it's a different version of Wolverine. This isn't even the Logan version of Wolverine. According to Mr. Paradox, this is the worst version of Wolverine that the universe has out there. The absolute worst. He let his world die. He was out there killing. Is the moment later on where he's talking to a character in particular I'll mention in a second. But there's a moment where he's talking about, he killed not just the bad X-Men, he was killing the good ones, and he didn't know how to stop. So, but this Wolverine is just a hell of a lot less patient, a hell of a lot more aggressive. And when he is in action, he is a force to be reckoned with, man. Hugh Jackman pulled out all the stops for this shit, man. And it's crazy because you would look at it like he left it all on the floor and on the set and in the film with the Logan movie, being as though that was supposed to be his swan song, man. But this Logan was just different, and he's just so much more irritable, man. I think if this Logan was around, Patrick Stewart's X-Men, he would have murdered them all within minutes. He's not fucking around, man. And I love that they don't make you think that Deadpool and Wolverine are going to get along at some point in this movie, because they can't. He wants to kill Deadpool every chance he can get, man. And the only times that he's not trying to kill him is when he's like, okay, this guy promised me something, and if he can get it done, I can get back to where I'm going, and some things can be undone that I've done wrong, type of thing. But the majority, 90% of this movie, these two are fighting. They are cursing at each other. They can't stand each other, and Logan is just so. It's like one of the worst road trip movies you've ever seen, man. It's like Tommy Boy. And Wade Wilson is basically Tommy Boy, and it's like if David Spade's character, Richard, was had adamantium claws and wanted to kill him. But when he finds Logan, and he brings him through the portal and shit like that, and then Mr. Paradox is just like, yo, you, like, I would have given you a pass on any other Logan, but this one, like, you've really outdone yourself. And Deadpool's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And he explains to him that this is the worst Wolverine ever. Excuse me. And then they both basically get sent away. They get sent to the void, where the TVA and Mr. Paradox are just like, listen, we don't give a shit about y'all. Figure it out, and y'all are going to, be food for, I don't know if it's called Alaya or Goliath or whatever it is, and you're going to be food for that, or you're going to be a slave and work for Cassandra, Professor X's sister. So this is when they send them into the void next to the Fox logo. This is when Deadpool and Wolverine have their first fight. And that first fight sequence, man, let me explain something to y'all. This Wolverine, we're used to seeing Wolverine get the upper hand and whoop some ass. No. Just because Deadpool is the merc with the mouth and because he's obnoxious does not mean this boy ain't got hands, swords, and guns and little pocket knives that he pulls out of his ass at some point. But Deadpool gives Wolverine a run for his money. Wolverine is confused at times as to why am I having such a hard time with this guy. No, he's a merc for a reason. Deadpool can rumble, man, and their fight sequence is so well choreographed and so well filmed. There's that Spider-Man nod where, there's the fight choreography when Flash is fighting Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in the hallway. There's a moment where Wolverine sticks his claws towards Deadpool, and excuse me, Deadpool's, he forms his swords in the shape of an X. And I gotta say, man, when the fight first starts, Wolverine does this thing where he's like clawing his way, on the dirt like a wild animal, yo. I don't think I've ever seen Wolverine do that. He either runs towards somebody screaming at the top of his lungs, but I've never seen him crawl like a feral wild beast or something like that. And I thought that was dope as hell to do, man. But the fight sequence, they are slicing, Deadpool is shooting, they are stabbing, they are absolutely destroying each other in this first fight sequence, man. And we end up getting to Cassandra at some point, but then we start to get even more cameos, man. And this is when I started to lose my mind. We already know Sabretooth was coming into the mix, and Sabretooth was in the trailer, and I think that was Tyler Mane that played him again. Tyler Mane played him in the first one. Liev Schreiber played him in X-Men Origins, but I think Tyler Mane Sabretooth looked so badass in this like post-apocalyptic void type of thing. I think all the characters in their post-apocalyptic costumes look good, even if they were played by different actors. But the Tyler Mane Sabretooth cameo is so short-lived, man, because he's like, yo, you ready to die? And then, he just slices Sabretooth's head off. And that's that. They run towards each other, and Wolverine does this clean swipe, man, and then he spins back around, and then Sabretooth just has his mouth open, and he stops in front of Wade, and it's like blood forming in his beard, and Wade's like, what is it, girl? Is there trouble in the well or whatever? He gives like that Lassie reference. And I'm going a little crazy here because there's a cameo we get prior to Sabretooth even pulling up. We do get Aaron Stanford back as Pyro. Pyro is a dick in this movie, man. He's still a fucking brown noser, man. He's a brown noser in X-Men 3. He was a traitor in X-Men 2, and he's just a little lapdog for Cassandra in this movie. They don't even give him anything cool to do except just be a dick. You know what I'm saying? And be the messenger. And then he tries to have a speech sometime at the end of the movie, and Logan just socks the shit out of him and knocks him out. He's like, not everybody gets a speech. And I'm like, yes, because Pyro's not a character I want to see have a speech where he's like, man, for 12 years I done worked for you and I'm tired of. Nobody wants to hear that shit, man. Logan he not playing that shit, because he even did that to Gambit in X-Men Origins, where he just elbowed him in the face, where Gambit's walking behind him. He's like, 2 years I've rotted in that hellhole and I ain't never going back. Logan's not trying to hear nobody's fucking speeches. But we get Pyro back. We also, in this moment, people, somebody jumps down and does a superhero landing. And I think it was the superhero landing that gave it away. And when he unveils himself, it's fucking Chris Evans. And he's got like he's like draped in this post-apocalyptic cloth or whatever. So we can't see a costume. So Deadpool, he's just like, yeah, I got this from here. I'll take it from here, man. I'll take care of Pyro. And Deadpool's like, Deadpool gets behind him and puts his arms around him, and Chris Evans just kind of just slowly, without even, almost not even paying attention to Deadpool, removes his hands from his waist, and then he's like, you're not gonna like what happens, and he tells him to stand back or whatever, and Deadpool's like, he's like, oh my god, he's gonna say it, because he's thinking it's Captain America the whole time, and then when Deadpool was about to say Avengers Assemble, he says flame on. Chris Evans says flame on, and you realize it's Johnny Storm in his full fury glory, man. And we've got Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four back. And let me just say this, man. First of all, Pyro fucks him up. He manipulates the fire with his little switcheroo thing, and he removes all the fire from him. Chris Evans falls, hits his nuts, falls, hits his head, falls, and almost breaks his neck. But somehow he survives. But let me just say this about Johnny Storm. Actually, about Chris Evans. For him to not have played Johnny Storm since the 2000s, and then he got his moment of redemption, character and movie-wise, with Captain America, with Steve Rogers. For him to have been in that role of Steve Rogers and so engulfed in that role for so many years, the fact that he never missed a step. He was right back in character as Johnny Storm, man. He's a fast talker. He seems like he still could be a playboy in somewhere in that universe, man. He babbles, and he also dies. He dies when they get to the void, man. Cassandra, Professor X's twin, his evil twin, kills him. And Deadpool actually gets him killed because he's telling Cassandra, like, yeah, he was talking shit about you and said that you can go to bald hell and this, that, and other. And Johnny Storm is just like, yo, I never said any of that shit. Like, I don't even know what he's talking about. And she does, like, this snatcheroo thing where she snatches all his skin off in just mid-sentence. And she snatches all his skin off, and just his bloody skeletal remains just fall in a bloody pulp puddle. And it was funny because not Deadpool, but Logan is actually pissed about it. He's like, you fucking asshole, you just got fucking killed. And then he's like, we're all grieving here. And for them to kill Johnny Storm the way they did him dirty, but it was a really great cameo. It was really good seeing Chris Evans back in action, man, as that character. I wish he was around a lot more, but it does become an ongoing joke, Johnny Storm's death at some point in this movie, man. A couple other people I didn't mention that are in the void that pop up are, we get to see Toad again. I don't think that's Ray Park playing Toad. We get to see, like I said, Pyro's there. I'm not sure if the big fat guy that's in the convoy, like the Mad Max looking convoy, is Blob or not. I just looked at his stomach hanging over his belt loop, if he even had a belt loop, but his stomach is like hanging down to his knees and shit, so I just assumed that was Blob. I'm not sure. You got the Russian from the Punisher movie, not played by Kevin Nash, of course. You got Azazel from X-Men First Class. I don't think that was Jason Fleming that played him. I'm almost sure it wasn't. We get Deathstrike. You get Callisto back in the mix. You get Psylocke. I didn't even know it was Psylocke at first, but it was such a distinctive shot of her that they had, and then you get to see fully the purple streaks in her hair. I was like, oh, they got Psylocke. They got Juggernaut back into the mix, man. Not Vinnie Jones, but they got Juggernaut into the mix. And I'm not mad at the actor they got to play him. He's a lot taller than Vinnie Jones, but they got the same suit that I love from X-Men 3, man. And like I said, I love that these cameoed villains are these cameoed bad guys from the previous X-Men movies and like the Punisher movies and things like that. I'm glad that they've got them looking like they are in the void, like I said, it looks like Mad Max. There is a Mad Max reference from Deadpool that's, he makes his Furiosa joke and things like that. And as far as Cassandra being a villain, I like her as a villain. She doesn't really have to lift too many fingers. Well, she can lift a finger and fuck you up. Like, she puts Logan under the dirt at some point, and his claws just slide backwards wherever the hell she tosses him at underground. But she's a telepath, so she doesn't have to do much. She's not one of those villains where she'll be in a crazy fight sequence with some crazy choreography, or she'll wield guns. No, she will literally mind fuck you. Like, she'll put her fingers through your skull just to get inside of into your subconscious and see what's going on in your head, what type of past trauma you may have, and why you are the way you are, type of thing. She does it to Wade. She does it to Logan at some point in time. So I like her, and I think her accent helps her villainous demeanor in the movie, if that makes any sense. Normally that would get on my nerves and I would call her a mustache twirling villain, but she does some cool shit in the movie, man, without having to really do too much physical work. And we get her talking about how they got to the void before she learned how to walk and all this other shit, or they got to the void after she learned how to walk, or I don't really remember what it was, but I know she did try to kill Professor X in the womb at some point, and you just find out what type of baddie she really is, and you can tell that it's a little bit more to her than she's letting on, but it's definitely cool to see Professor X's sibling in the mix, man. And Wolverine and Deadpool basically they get away at some point, and they get out of the void. They escape because that big cloud thing from Loki is about to eat them up. So they do get away. And when they get away, this is when we get on our road trip type of shit with Deadpool and Wolverine. And this is when we run into like Nice Pool and Dog Pool. Nice Pool has no mask on. He's got long ass hair, and Nice Pool reminds me. I'm making another David Spade reference. Nice Pool reminds me of David Spade when he's in oh my god, what is it? Grandma's Boy? Yeah, I think that's it. Grandma's Boy, where David Spade is the the waiter, and he's like, we do serve shots of wheatgrass, and then when they leave out, the girl says something to him, and he's like, you were sweet. He reminds me of that, like that obnoxious hipster who's just too nice and just so much of a prude. But that's the way that Nice Pool is written, man. And I love how attached Deadpool automatically gets to Dog Pool. And apparently that dog really looks like that. I don't know if I think they CG'd the goggles, but the tongue, that dog's tongue is really hanging out of its mouth like that. I think it was in France or somewhere that they found that dog. It won the contest for like ugliest dog, and they cast it in the movie. But I love Dog Pool, man. I'm gonna get to the other Deadpool cameos in a second, because there's some shit I gotta discuss here, people. So Deadpool and Wolverine, they're like, we'll go on this journey. We'll go on this journey because Deadpool tells Logan, yo, I can fix this timeline. I can undo what's been done. I got you. Like, I'll get you back to where you go. We can undo some shit. I can undo some shit. Everybody wins. It's a win-win for both of us. And Logan is just like, he's like, all right, man, like, come the fuck on. So Nice Pool gives them a car. They're talking shit in the car. And this moment, man, this is probably some of Hugh Jackman's best. No, this is Hugh Jackman's best acting in the entire movie, man, where they're in the car and fucking, and they're just Deadpool is trying to make small talk with him, and he's asking him about the suit. Now, obviously, Wolverine, it's his killing suit. He puts that suit on for killing, and Deadpool's just like, well, where'd you get the costume from? And he's like, yo, just fucking talk about something else other than the costume. And then Deadpool slips up. He slips up, and he's like, yeah, so what are you going to do if I can save this, this timeline? And Logan hits the fucking brakes, and the car spins, and they stop, and he's like, well, what do you mean if? He said, yo, you said you could fix all of this shit, and you got me out here with you. And he's like, yo, did you lie about all this? And he claws him in the leg. And then Deadpool is like, yo, I didn't lie, man. He said, I made an educated wish. And Logan stops, and Logan just, everything that Deadpool says to him afterwards, after the educated wish comment, he's like, man, I could save these people. You could save these people. You could save your people. And he gives him like this motivational speech a little bit. And all Logan remembers him saying is that educated wish, because he looks at him, he's like, did you just fucking say you made an educated wish? And then he goes off on Deadpool. Logan is the only person in the history of history who has ever shut Deadpool up, man. And he goes off. He's telling him like, he said that bald chick was right. You'll never save the world. You're not a hero. You couldn't even save a relationship with a goddamn stripper. And he said that he tells him, he's like, yo, I really want to say that you'll die alone, but he said it's one of God's greatest jokes that you can't die, and that joke is all on us. He tears him apart verbally. He doesn't even have to draw the claws at this point, because Deadpool is just sitting there taking all of this shit in that Logan is spewing at him, and then he's just like, you got nothing to say, mouth. And then Deadpool is just quietly, like, he just quietly tells him, he's like, I'm gonna fight you now. And then Logan just starts laughing, but Deadpool socks the fuck out of him, like right in his nose. His nose immediately starts bleeding. And then they have another fight sequence, man. This second fight sequence might be better than the first one, because when I say they are absolutely destroying each other and fucking up this car, but the car still remains very intact, very drivable, but the interior is completely covered in blood. They're throwing each other outside the car. They're jumping through the windows to keep fighting each other inside the car. And I think they're playing that "You're the One That I Want" song wasn't that from Grease or some shit like that? But one of the greatest parts of that fight sequence is as the fight sequence is going off, the camera pans down to a bumper sticker on the back of the car that says coexist. And the fact that these two can barely coexist in any moments that they're on screen together, I thought the irony of that was really cool. And the fact that the bumper sticker that says coexist is just getting completely covered in blood. When I say Deadpool and Wolverine, like I'm telling y'all, man, it's a good thing they can regenerate, because if not, they would just be a puddle of blood in that car, man. They're tearing each other the fuck up in that sequence, man. And one of the funnier parts about the fight is that once it's over and they fade into the next scene, they fought each other to sleep. You know, they went to sleep. They fought so much, man. And Wolverine's laying down, but Deadpool is completely mummified, wrapped up in the seatbelt. Like, he wrapped his ass up in the seatbelt just so he can get some fucking sleep himself. Yo, I'm telling you, man, the fight sequences are hilarious as hell. But then somebody walks up to the car, gets in, and drives off. Now, I didn't know who that was that drove off. I didn't know what type of fucking cameos we were going to get. But people, let me tell y'all something right now, man. This moment right here where they go to the Resistance hideout, because Johnny Storm had mentioned the Resistance. He's like, there's people like us that don't play well with others. You know, they're hiding out, they're fighting for their rights and things like that. When we meet the Resistance, you could not have told me that these motherfuckers were going to show up at the same time. At the same fucking time, people. Now, one of these characters I did suspect, and I said this in one of them TikTok videos. I was like, yeah, they might even fuck around and bring her ass back and make a mention of how bad her movie was and blah, 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 blah. But when we get to the Resistance hideout, we're looking around. We see Deadpool wake up. I think Deadpool shouts Thor when he wakes up. But Wolverine's over there drinking some Jim Beam or something like that. And you hear somebody coming. So Deadpool swings his sword, but a sigh pops up and stops the sword. And when I saw that sigh, I was like, I said it like it was ATL, man, like Big Boy in ATL when he said, I know that ain't who I think it is, because that sigh pops up and stops the sword attack and drops Deadpool to the ground. And lo and behold, it is Jennifer Gardner, people, as Elektra, who looks like she hasn't aged a day in that costume. I was excited to see her. I said, oh shit, they actually brought her back. They didn't recast her. So she sees Deadpool's not really the threat that she thinks he is. He's just defending himself. So she backs up and lets him get up. When Deadpool gets up, people, this is the moment where I squealed. I'm not even going to say I shouted. I'm not going to say I screamed. I squealed. Or maybe it was a screech. It was something. But I'm pretty sure I'm leaning more towards a squeal, people. When Elektra lets Deadpool get up, the camera slows down. And who the fuck walks into frame? And the reveal was perfect, because you see Deadpool's body and then the reveal is just walking right past him. It was framed perfectly. The speed of in which they framed this cameo, this introduction, perfection. Wesley motherfucking Snipes as Blade, people, comes onto screen and it's slow motion and he's just walking. And at first, it's another one I had to double take. I'm like, is he CG? Is he CG? But then they show him slow motion again, and I'm like, yo, I said Wesley fucking Snipes. I would have never. Nobody could have convinced me. I thought that Blade was already in the void in that one trailer. I was like, is that Blade? But is that Sticky Fingers, TV series version of Blade? If so, that'll be good for a laugh. But no, Wesley Snipes, people. And then they gave him like the little gray chin patch to show his seniority, like on some old man Blade type of shit. He's got a gray patch in his box cut, and he's got like a new outfit that's all blacked out in leather. I'm like, oh my people, I'm telling you, this was the cameo of the decade, to be completely honest, man, because who the fuck would have thought that Wesley Snipes and Marvel would ever work together again, just based off of how bad an experience Blade Trinity was, man. For a lot of people involved, man. So to see Wesley Snipes as Blade, people, I'm telling y'all, I got goosebumps. Legit goosebumps. I could have cried. And then to add insult to injury in the best way possible, we see Blade. He gets his sword, and a card comes flying around the corner of one of the other entrances of the Resistance hideout. And I didn't even put it together at first. I'm like, well, who does this card belong to? Did somebody just throw it? And then a hand snatches that card ever so gracefully, and who pops up on screen in slow motion, people? Fucking Channing Tatum as Gambit. Yo, man, I was an emotional wreck. This is the best. There's a lot of cameos. There's a lot of cameos in this movie, people, as we've been talking about throughout the course of this whole thing. And there's a lot of mentions, but these, even Elektra, even Laura, because yeah, Laura pops up at some point too after Gambit's in the mix. But to see these characters as the Resistance, so badass, man, so epic, so memorable. Wesley Snipes, I'm gonna just give him like the majority of the praise here, man, because that's the one character where I was just like, I don't think it's gonna happen. Even Wesley Snipes said it in an interview. He said to Ryan Reynolds, when Ryan Reynolds called him about the movie, he said, I don't know how you're gonna pull that off. And he said he didn't think Marvel or Disney was into it. And he was like, but if you can make it happen, let's do it. I'm gonna say something about Blade towards the end of this, people. But god damn it, man, you got Elektra, X-23, Gambit, and Blade as a part of the Resistance talking it up with Deadpool and Wolverine. I swear to God, man, it was straight up nerdgasm, yo. Real shit. Because Channing Tatum, and the fact that they gave Channing Tatum a comic book accurate costume, he's got the thing like around his neck and everything. He's got the vest on, the coat, the hair, the accent. A lot of people had a problem with the accent. I didn't mind the accent at all. Channing Tatum's been trying to do this role for 10 plus years, man. So he said that he was all marveled out. He had given up on it. And then he said that Ryan Reynolds finally made his dream come true, man. And shout out to Ryan Reynolds for just doing that for whoever he pulls strings for, man. The guy is a team player, but it's so funny because Wade, obviously, he's got to do his Deadpool shtick, and he's just like, look at you all, and he's like, he's basically talking to everybody one by one, and he's looking at Blade, and he's like, I didn't expect to see you here. He said, I didn't know. He said, I thought you were retired. And then the way he says it, like Blade looks at him, he's like, retarded. And he's like, no, he said, I said retired. He's like, I'm already in the void. I'm not trying to get canceled too. But because Gambit hasn't really existed in the MCU or anything like that, at least not Channing Tatum's version, Deadpool doesn't know who he is. So he's like, and he said, who's this succulent reminder of my own insecurities or whatever, my own inadequacies or whatever he says. And he said, you look like the superhero version of Hawkeye. And then, Gambit, Channing Tatum had a ball with this role, man. I don't mind the accent because when he's talking to Deadpool at first, he's like, they call me Remy LeBeau. You can call me the Gambit. But when Deadpool hears him talk, he's like, it's been a while since I saw Sling Blade. Hit me again. The whole running joke is that he can't understand shit that that fucking Gambit is saying, yo. The audience can kind of understand it. I understand it, but there were moments where I was just like, wait, what? Because there's a moment where he's talking about getting Juggernaut's helmet off of his head and, trying to stop Cassandra so they can block her thoughts and her telepathy, all that other shit. And Gambit's just like, he said, now we know that dome got to come off with it or whatever he says. And then Deadpool's like, he's like, well, he said, who was your dialect coach? The Minions? And he's like, yo, we're missing all this exposition here. I don't even know what you're talking about. But they have their moment where they talk about characters in the MCU that have died. Or not even so much in the MCU, but they talk about Marvel characters that have died in the void trying to fight Cassandra. Gambit brings up Daredevil died trying to fight Cassandra. Magneto died trying to fight Cassandra. Punisher's dead. Quicksilver's dead. And then the running joke is the fact that Johnny Storm was just so beloved by them because Gambit's like, even that sweet baby angel Johnny Storm, he died a couple days ago. And then Logan spills the beans and he's just like, yeah, man, he was like, this motherfucker guy, he's the one that got him killed. And they're actually about to ride on Deadpool because they think Deadpool got him killed, and then he makes up a whole story or whatever just to keep them off his ass because Blade tells him when they're trying to figure out what happened to Johnny Storm, Blade's like, yo, spill it, which was a line that he said in Blade Trinity, if I'm not mistaken, before they go into that blood harvesting factory. And then Gambit pulls a card out and he's just like, yeah, he said, what happened to Johnny? He said, talk now, I'm gonna start dealing. And yo, man, I'm sorry, but I'm hooked on to every line that Gambit delivers in this movie, man, because there's a moment where he's talking to Logan and he sees Logan drinking the bottle of Jim Beam and he's like, we never had a Wolverine up in here. And he said, you make it a common courtesy before you drink up all my liquor. Or what do you say to ask before you drink up all my liquor? And Logan's just like, well, it's a good thing I don't give a fuck. And Gambit throws a card and breaks the bottle. Wolverine grabs a whole nother bottle. But Gambit's got a lot of funny dialogue. It makes me think if they're going to keep that tone going, if Channing Tatum hopefully gets his solo movie finally, because Gambit is like a spitfire, man. He is a badass for sure, especially during his fight sequence. But when they're all, talking about let's do it, man. Let's rock out and let's fight Cassandra. When they're all on the same page, Everybody's like, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" Gambit's like, he's like, "I didn't know my daddy, but I'm sure as hell I shot out of his dick ready." And he put them buttery nuts all up on my mama, and I shot out of his dick and said, "What's up, doc?" And it's like what? He's just going crazy with the dialogue, man. But the accent makes it so much better. And there's a moment where Wesley Snipes as Blade has a really good line that I feel like nobody really talks about. It's a really good and noble line that's pretty true to the character. Because I feel like there's a misconception that because Blade is a daywalker and he shoots guns that he's like not necessarily an anti-hero, but he's not as caring as he could be just because he hides a lot behind those sunglasses. And I feel like this moment proves it, where Deadpool and Wolverine are asking everybody how they got there, and Blade tells them, TVA, there was a knock at the door. TVA said that my world was dying and I never even got a chance to fight for it. I like that line right there was something that it didn't get me emotional, but I was like, wow, you really reminded people that Blade is a hero. Regardless of how long it's been since we've seen Wesley Snipes as the character. I want to say it was since 2006 was the last movie. But the fact that Blade said that line, it showed that he really truly cared about saving humans from vampires or whatever the threat may have been, man. I think that is a line in this movie that nobody is really acknowledging, man. It was a really great line for them to just throw in there. But they do have a whole conversation about the void, and they're surprised that Wade and Logan have made it out. And there is that moment where Laura X-23 is kind of sizing up, like visually sizing up Logan, because she knows it's not the same Logan that died, in with her hand in hand. But she knows that there may be something in there that she could familiarize herself with. And then there's a moment at, once everybody agrees to fight the next day at sunup and go to the void and get this helmet from Juggernaut to stop Cassandra. There is a moment at the campfire between Logan and Laura, and I think it's one of the more downplayed moments, in the sense that there's not a lot of humor. There's little to no humor at all in that moment, man, and it's just Laura and Logan, at the fire, and he's telling her all the bad things he's done, and she's kind of just like listening in. But I still think that she sees, her father figure. She sees that Logan that she was scratching and surviving with in the Solo movie, and she can't really shake it. And he's even telling her, like, "Look, kid, whoever you think I am, I'm not. Like, I'm not no hero. You got the wrong guy." And she looks at him and she's like, "You were always the wrong guy." And then she just walks off. But even before that, she's like, "We're going to take down Cassandra at sunup. We can't do this without you." And he's just like, "Well, good luck. I don't give a shit." And he's just sitting there drinking. Like, this Logan is a super alcoholic, man. But the next day they play that bring him out, and I didn't expect that, but I was like, okay, certain needle drops in movies wouldn't work. This wouldn't work in certain movies, but bring him out when you got Elektra, Blade, Gambit, and X-23 and Deadpool all in that same busted up bloody ass car. Then they're listening to Bring 'Em Out, and then they're talking about getting to the void. Listen, man. Blade gets out of that sunroof with the Punisher's rocket launcher, and listen, Gambit handing Blade a rocket launcher for one. These are things that I never thought I'd see in my life, man. And then Deadpool's like, "Well, where the hell did you get that from?" And Elektra's like, "It's the Punishers." And then he's like, "Well, which one? It's been like 6 of them." And then Blade is he's aiming the rocket launcher, and then after he says, "I'm rambling, people. I told myself this wasn't going to be too long, and I just can't help it." But he's like, "Well, how many Punishers? There's been like 6 of them." Blade's like, "Well, there's only been one Blade, and there's only ever going to be one Blade." And then Deadpool kind of breaks the fourth wall and looks at the camera. I don't know if that look was to let us know, yeah, there's only one Blade, and Wesley Snipes is him, and he's coming back, or was that like, I don't know if you guys know what Kevin Feige has in store for Mahershala Ali. Listen, I don't give a fuck if Mahershala Ali suits up anymore. I don't, because Wesley Snipes did such a good job in this movie. But then we get to the void, they blast. I forgot to mention that Ant-Man, Giant Man, he is basically the headquarters. His dead body in that suit is basically the headquarters. So Blade shoots the rocket, blows up the fucking the hands. They make an entrance, and then they're all talking their shit. They're talking their shit, or not necessarily talking their shit. They're all getting out the car, ready to do battle. And who comes out the trunk? Who comes out the hatch? Wolverine, man, and it's like I knew you had to have my boy there, man. They can't squad up without Logan present. Then you get the hero shot, man. You get Logan, you get X-23, you get Blade, you get Gambit, you get Elektra, you get Deadpool. This is the MCU fucking squad that I never knew I needed, people. And then Blade is he's kind of smirking at all the villains and the goons that are there waiting on them, and he's like, ooh, this is gonna be good. And then Gambit, everybody's using this as like a green screen thing on TikTok now, because Gambit's sizing everybody up too, and he's like, you know how long I've been waiting for this? He said, I'm about to make a name for myself out here. And then Logan's like, I don't think you guys are gonna walk away from this. And Gambit doesn't give a fuck. They're riding out for Deadpool and Wolverine, and he's just like, man, you just let people know what happened here today, and you go have a drink for me. And then Blade walks right up next to him, and he's like, yo, we got you 6, until you get inside. We'll make sure you get the package. And they all are, I'm telling you, man, is one of the greatest battles ever. Elektra gets to whoop ass with them size. X-23 puts them glasses on from the last movie, and her claws get deployed. She gets to whoop some ass. She does something really nasty at some point, man. As far as the injury goes and leading up to the kill shot. But Gambit gets his cards ready. He gets to whoop ass Blade. They don't give Blade the usual sword that we're used to. They give him like this big ass Bowie knife, but he still puts in work, gets to draw his gun. The fight sequences are fucking amazing, man. It's so much happening. I can't really talk about everything, but I think the highlight for me, as much as I love Blade in this movie, the highlight in that fight sequence where they're trying to make sure Deadpool and Logan get into the headquarters for Cassandra. The highlight is Gambit. The shit that they have him do fight choreography wise with the flips and the kicks and the punches, but the sound design on the cards, the way that he throws the cards at people and they make people explode in a rated R movie, the glowing staff that he's got in the movie, I'm telling you, man, Gambit. And he does exactly what he told Deadpool he does. He's like, what exactly do you do? He's like, I charge the playing cards. I make them go boom. And he says boom at some point, man. He's throwing the cards up top to make shit explode and get rid of more goons. Blade's getting sword work. I love that Blade and Azazel are fighting at some point, man. And they make sure, they got their 6, and they make sure Wolverine and Deadpool get inside, man. And they do get inside, and Cassandra basically is trying to manipulate Logan into joining her. And she's like, you can be whoever you want to be here. We don't care about what you did before. You can start new here and just leave all that other shit behind. And she goes into his mind. She mind fucks him and sticks her fingers inside of his skull. But it's actually a trick. He's letting her inside so that Deadpool can get the drop on her. But how he gets the drop on her, he gets Juggernaut's helmet. How do we get Juggernaut's helmet? Because X-23 is fighting Juggernaut. She's stabbing them all up, and he throws her, and she kind of spins around and does that little pose, and then she runs towards him and slices like down where his legs are at, and then he turns around and tries to move, and she has sliced his fucking Achilles tendons, and he falls to the ground, and she cuts his head off. They cut away right as she's about to cut his head off. So they do get the helmet. They put it on her, but they can't stop what's happening unless they take the helmet off of her. And she says that I will kill you first, Wade, if you take this helmet off me. And Wolverine's like, look, we got to do what we got to do because that big monster dragon cloud thing is coming from Loki. And they play that I'll Be Seeing You song at some point while Blade and Gambit and everybody are fighting. And I thought they were going to die in that sequence because everything is slow motion. Blade gets stabbed. Gambit gets tackled to the ground. Elektra gets fucked up. X-23 gets fucked up. It looks like they're losing and they're all about to die in this slow motion montage sequence with this song playing. But when Logan takes the helmet off of her, he tells her, like, look, I knew your brother Charles, and he would break the universe in half, or whatever he says. It's a really crazy line where he says something along the lines of he would break the universe in half if it meant, making sure that you were going to be okay or something like that. He assures Cassandra, and then you find out Cassandra's like, yeah, I didn't always want to be like this or whatever the hell she's talking about. But she opens up a portal. Hey, you guys get y'all asses back, man. Get up out of here before y'all get eaten up by this thing. And I love there's a shot where Blade is looking up in the sky and smiling when he sees Logan and Wade jumping into the portal, as we see in the trailer, into the Doctor Strange portal. And I guess that they're all happy that they made it out of there, man. And all at the expense of, them kind of being martyrs for these two characters and what they believed in. So I like that they all were ready to ride out and die just so Wade and Logan could get the job done. But then when they jump through that portal, they end up back on the street. They see Peter and shit like that. But then this is when we see all the Deadpools, man. You see Lady Deadpool, you see Headpool, you see Kidpool, you see Cowboy Deadpool, you see it's like 100 Deadpools that come through a portal to fuck up Wolverine and Deadpool, man. And this is when, first of all, Nice Pool dies. Nice Pool gets shot the fuck up. Wade uses him as a shield because he wants to keep Dogpool, and he wants those two, gold plated, what else, Desert Eagles or something like that. So he definitely gets him murdered just to get his guns and keep his dog. But there's a moment where all the Deadpools are shooting everything up, and Logan just grabs Dogpool, and everybody's like, hold your fire, and Logan just casually walks past with Dogpool because he knows they won't shoot him. So he goes over to Deadpool. Deadpool's like, yo, you ready to do this? And Logan's like, yo, to kill 100 U's? Fuck yeah, like, let's do this. So they play that song, and they do that slow motion walkout that we saw in the trailer. I did not know that this was going to be the moment in the movie where Logan grabs the back of his costume and pulls that fucking cowl over his head, man. Perfection. Absolute perfection. I saw somebody on Instagram that said, man, we really should have had Logan's eyes in that cowl, man, instead of just whitening the eyes out. No, it's perfection. We waited that long to see the shit. I'm cool with that. I'm perfectly cool with it, man. It's comic book accurate. I don't care that they had the eyes white. That's what we needed. When he pulls that cowl over his head, man, it couldn't have been a more perfect time. It couldn't have been a more perfect look. And Deadpool, of course, he's got to have a joke. He's like, what's the wind resistance on those blowjob handles on that cowl? Like, I'm telling y'all, man. And then there's a tracking shot of Logan and Deadpool just mowing down these other Deadpool variants, man. A tracking shot, people. You know who I'm watching throughout this whole entire massacre fight sequence, this tracking shot? No diss to Deadpool. I'm watching Wolverine slice shit up. Then they do cut away for a second because Blind Owl is up in the window and she says something. But that whole tracking shot sequence, they are slaughtering all of these Deadpool variants, man. And then they go into the bus and they're killing all the rest of them off. And then they slow motion jump through the back of the window on the bus. And then Deadpool trips. And he's like, man, I waited this long and I screwed it up. I fucked it up. But then they find out all the Deadpools know how to regenerate. Unlike Nice Pool, he just doesn't regenerate at all and lost his head, literally. So all the Deadpools are regenerating. But Peter comes dressed up in the Deadpool outfit he had in his locker earlier in the movie. And they think that it's going to end bad. And everybody stops. And Lady Deadpool's like, holy shit, it's Peter. And it's like, you guys know Peter? She's like, yeah, every Deadpool's got a Peter. And they stop on account of Peter. So he saves the day, man. But then they still have to go find Cassandra because she's fucking with the timeline integrity and she plans to like ruin everything. And, they do have the moment where Wade wants to sacrifice himself. And he's like, look, man, you got a lot more to undo than I do. You lost a lot of people. And I say hi to those people, or say hi to my friends for me, man. And then Logan takes the picture of, Wade's family, and he's just like, look, man, I got nothing. He's like, I don't have anything to go back to. I got nothing. Let me have this. Let me take this one on the chin and make this sacrifice. And then Wade's very sad about it, man, because he's like really considering it. So he lets him do it. He's like, all right, man. And then, Logan, he's walking over to the door to go make the sacrifice and fix the timeline integrity. And then Wade's like, yo, like, you were the best X-Men. You were the best Wolverine, basically, is what he told him. You were the best version of Wolverine. And Wolverine, I'm thinking he was going to say thanks or something, but he's like, yo, say hi to your friends for me. Let me go do this. And then as soon as he opens up the door, he turns around and Deadpool bashes him in the face with a fire extinguisher, tosses him out the room, and locks the door behind him. And Wolverine's just like, what the fuck are you doing? And Wade's like, look, man, I can't hear you over all of this self-sacrifice or whatever the hell he says. And obviously Wade, he says that he's stalling because maybe he's scared to die in this moment, but he starts doing little silly shit, like he's on the other side of the door acting like he's flying, and then he's acting like he's walking down a staircase. He does the Spock, live long and let prosper symbol with his hands, and Wolverine is pissed. He's like, yo, let me do this, man. He's like bashing on the door, cursing him out. So Wade grabs like the cables, so that he can make sure Cassandra doesn't fuck up the timeline integrity, because she's almost done the job. There's like a little countdown percentage thing that's happening, and she's about to destroy everything. And I knew it was going to happen. I knew Wade wasn't going to sacrifice himself, and his hand is reaching out to grab the other set of cables to fix this shit. And he can't reach it. And I'm just like, the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, yo, grab his hand. And then you see Logan's glove, grab his fucking hand. And then when Logan sticks his claws into the other set of cables, his whole, like, he looks like the Flash. Like when the Flash's clothes disintegrate, his clothes, like his whole top half disintegrates, man. I think he still got the mask on, but then Deadpool kind of looks at, Logan's like 6-pack or 12-pack, whatever, and he's just all impressed and fascinated by it and shit. So they hold hands and they fix the timeline integrity. They stop Cassandra, and then the TVA members come back and they tell Logan and Wolverine, or Logan and Wade, they're basically like, yo, you guys, you sacrificed, like, you saved a timeline that was pretty much fucked up and dying and this, that, and the other. Like, nobody's ever done this before. And, they basically tell them they're free to go. TVA doesn't really want them. They want, what the hell that guy's name is? Mr. Paradox. They take his ass in. And, Wade makes a mention to the black chick on TVA. And he tells her, he's like, look, man, I had B-15 is her name. And he's like, yo, I had some friends that, may or may not be gone. Is there any chance you can bring them back? And she's like, I'll see what I can do. I don't know if that means that we're going to get to see Blade and Elektra and Gambit and X-23 again, but I'm hoping that's what that means when she says, I'll see what I can do. Look, man. And then at the end, they're all at the dinner table with, you think that Wade and Logan aren't going to see each other again because they're sitting on the bench, and he's like, so, I'll see you around, and Logan gets up and he's just like, no, we won't see each other around. And then he actually calls him back, and then next thing you know, we're at Wade's apartment, and everybody's there. Blind Owl, Colossus, everybody's there, but the new faces that are there are Logan and Laura. And, to see Logan and Laura, even though it's a different version of Wolverine, just to see them together again in a much happier ending, I think the Logan ending, it still hits, and it still sticks because they're variants of these characters now. And to see them happy, Laura and Logan smiling at each other, to see them happy, to see the ending of the movie, to see Wolverine and Deadpool's mask side by side, this is some shit that I never thought I would see on screen, man. So to see it all play out, I don't have too many complaints about it. There's a post-credit scene where Deadpool, there's like a clip that he's looking at on the monitor, Chris Evans basically saying, Johnny Storm saying everything that he told Cassandra he said, and then he's like, got you, bitch, or whatever he says, and then it just goes off at that point. Now, I don't know if I missed another one or something like that, but overall, man, this movie's a dream. It's a dream come true, and it took me a whole fucking hour. I did not want to take an hour talking about this, but here we are, people. Shout out to y'all if y'all stuck around, man, because it was a lot to unpack, and that's not even all my notes, to be honest. It was a lot more that I missed. But this movie, man, it is a lot going on. It is a lot of fan service. I can see why people would complain about too much fan service, but I feel like at this point in the MCU, bringing these two characters together, when you're playing with the multiverse and different timelines and timeline integrity and TVA and things like that, anything's possible. Anything is to be expected. And I expected the unexpected here, but I think the unexpected I didn't expect either, so it caught me off guard when I wasn't expecting it. And this shit was like I said, it's the best film of 2024 for me. Whatever's coming out next, that's cool. Nosferatu and the Alien Realm, all that. I'm looking forward to all of that, but ain't none of that gonna top this shit. My favorite film of the year was Bad Boys Ride or Die, but it's now Deadpool and Wolverine, man. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. The performances, the humor. Shout out to Disney and Marvel, because I swore they were going to skim down. I was like, man, this might be the most the much more watered down one of the three. But no, they let it rip every which way possible. They do not hold back with the jokes. They do not hold back with the raunchy humor. They don't hold back with anything at all. Deadpool is just as unleashed as he's ever been, maybe a little more in this film. Like I said, Hugh Jackman gives one of the best performances as far as him playing the character of Logan. Cassandra Nova, Emma Corrin was a solid villain. Like I said, she was cool being a telepath, an evil telepath. I didn't expect her to have certain fight sequences in here. It was cool seeing Daphne Keane again. I gotta shout out Jon Favreau. Happy Hogan had a cameo earlier in the movie. Wesley Snipes and Channing Tatum and Jennifer Garner, Chris Evans, Henry Cavill, Aaron Stanford, Tyler Mane, everybody that was involved in the making of this movie. And also, first of all, you got to shout out the writers. Ryan Reynolds helped write this script with Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. Fucking great job. Great job writing these lines for all of these characters, man. And everything that was on paper, they gave it 10 times more. Sean Levy, this director, let me shout out this director real quick, man. Let me see what else he's done, because I did not know. that he did all these movies that he's done. I haven't seen all of them, but he did Just Married. Recipe shout out to Brittany Murphy. I actually thought that movie was pretty funny when I seen it back in the day. Night at the Museum. Real Steel I haven't seen, but this is his second time working with Hugh Jackman apparently. He did Date Night with Steve Carell. He did The Internship. This Is Where I Leave You. He did Free Guy, so this ain't his first time working with Ryan Reynolds. He also did The Adam Project. He did 8 episodes of Stranger Things. And before this, David Leitch, who did Hobbs and Shaw, did Deadpool 2, and Tim Miller did the original Deadpool. For this series to have 3 different directors and to all feel so connected, for the continuity to be there, for the tone to just be so consistent, yo man, this is easily one of the greatest trilogies of all time. You know, this is hands down one of the best fucking superhero trilogies of all time, man. You got this, you got Captain America. I didn't really like Iron Man 2 that much, so I can't really put Iron Man 2 up there, but this is definitely one of the best superhero, anti-hero, whatever the fuck movies of all time. One of the best trilogies. This is movie of 2024. This is top 5 MCU movies hands down, man. It's a 10 out of 10. And when I say top 5, it's Deadpool and Wolverine. No particular order, but it's Deadpool and Wolverine. There's Endgame. There's Civil War. There's Wakanda Forever. And there's Spider-Man No Way Home. This shit has earned its stripes, man. If everybody got complaints out there for it, that's cool. That's all good. But not here. Not here, man. I'd complained. I had the audacity to complain with the teaser trailer, and they was like, "Okay, we'll see. We got something for you. You're gonna be an hour and 5 minutes into this shit, realizing how wrong you were to even complain about that teaser." Because I got some Wolverine shit that we'll probably never see again in this movie, man. I thought Logan was Unleashed, Wolverine Unleashed, man. But this one was different, and to see the costume come to life, man. Bravo, Disney. Marvel, 20th Century Studios, man, y'all have outdone yourselves with this one, and this movie is still making bank, rightfully so. Y'all know the commentary's coming. The moment this shit starts streaming, y'all already know what it is, man. But I feel like I have exhausted myself. I can finally throw these notes away. If you guys have stuck around for an hour and 6 minutes into this, then y'all are amazing. Almost just as amazing as this movie. Maybe more amazing than this movie. But I don't know. I got y'all on like a scale right now. I'm trying to figure it out. But people, y'all already know where to go, man. If y'all don't, y'all can follow the podcast on Spotify and wherever else you get your podcast from. Shout out to Spotify for podcasters. Follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, Romero Tudor. Shout out to the Facebook movie group, the Cinemaniacs. And last, but certainly not least, shout out to the Tudor reviewers, the listeners, the lovers, the supporters out there. Look, we got some trailers coming for y'all this week that's pre-recorded. I'm glad I got those out the way because I feel drained, man. I feel drained from this one. I don't know if I'll record any more today. So I said, thank God we got trailers for Tuesday and Thursday, man. I don't know which commentary we doing next. Let me let this one marinate for a little bit, man. I was oozing all over the place with this one, okay? I need a break. I would say I need a cigarette, but I don't smoke. God damn it. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, if you guys stuck around for my ranting on this, I told you I don't know how to do regular reviews, man. I don't. Maybe you have to have Deadpool put a gun to my head and be like, listen, if you go over 10, 15, 20 minutes, then, you know, what'd he say to Logan in the bar when he finds this version of Wolverine? He's just like, now, unless you want to take a deep breath through your forehead, I think you should come with me or whatever. And the barrel of Deadpool's gun says, smile and wait for the flash or something like that. I ain't gonna talk about no more because I'm gonna just break down all the shit that I missed out on. I'm gonna turn into a verbal things you may have missed episode, and I don't want to do that, people. But y'all already know the love and support y'all show me, I show it back to y'all tenfold and then some. So with that being said, people, yours truly, Romero Tudor. Another episode of Tudor Reviews in the can. I'll check y'all on the next one.